I didn't discern in the moment that the boundaries that I set for guys are going to be a little different to girls, simply because there is a need to protect the partner that you are with. A quote from Kamo Lefenya from episode 17 of season 1. You can check that out if you haven't checked this episode. We were chatting around friendships, and in particular, if men can win at friendships. And so in this conversation, I want to chat to us around opposite sex friendships. So just to start it off in terms of a story, on my side, I remember when I was in pursuit of my now wife. At that time, we were good friends and getting to know each other, and I developed feelings. And so I'm like, okay, I want to pursue her. And if you know about me now, and if you've been following the podcast, I've shared this a couple of times. I am a very perceptive individual. I'm very self-aware. And so in me, having developed these feelings for her, and now, trying to get the courage as well and wanting to pursue a romantic relationship with her, I realized I took a time. I don't know what started it. I don't know. I think it's just the natural curiosity that I have and the self-awareness that I have. I had a time where I just reflected on my friendships at that time, and particularly female friendships that I had. And so 2 friendships in particular came to mind, and these were friends since high school, right? And we'd been friends for a number of years, for the entirety of high school, and we were still friends. And I just looked at the nature of those friendships, and I realized that we were quite comfortable as friends. Now, it was platonic. As far as I know, there were no attractions to any romantic attractions, at least from my side, there were none. But as I said, we were quite comfortable. By that, I mean, we would casually call each other babe. And these are friends. And so having, just really reflecting on this at that time, knowing that I want to pursue this person, and pursue a romantic relationship with them, I put myself in the position where we were now dating and she met one of these friends, or just happened to overhear a conversation, maybe a phone call between me and this friend, and this person casually calling me babe. And I realized that this would not be okay. This would be doom for this relationship before it even started. And so I knew at that time that I need to adjust. I need to do some adjustment in terms of these female friendships. I'm happy to say I'm still friends with these individuals. Even to this day, my wife knows them, is fond of them, knows them very well. And so, but that happened when I actually took the step of actually saying, hey, we need to relook and just adjust the nature of our friendship. And so I had to do that. And I have to say, it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable. And so that's also really informed much of what I'm going to share with us in this episode. And so just some takeaways for us in this chat. And the first thing is just quoting some scripture, and that is firstly in Galatians 6 verse 5. It says, "For we are each responsible for our own conduct." And then going to Proverbs 14 verse 12, it says, "There's a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death." So 2 takeaways for us in this chat, and that the first is think ahead when making decisions. What do I mean by this? I am of the belief now, in hindsight, having experienced this, and like from the story that I just shared, I am of the belief that, or rather, I lean more towards setting boundaries at the very beginning to save yourself from having to make an uncomfortable change later on. Like I said, it was quite uncomfortable for me to having had a friendship that spanned plus minus 5 years with these individuals to go and say, listen, obviously I know the nature of our friendship. However, I'm realizing that because I'm trying to build something in this manner, if I will have to introduce this person that I'm building a romantic relationship with, introduce them to our friendship, they might not be comfortable with the current nature of our friendship. And so because of that, we need to just make some adjustments. I rather set the boundaries at the start of a friendship. Now, in hindsight, and having this knowledge that I have and having experienced this, I rather set the boundaries at the start of the relationship so that no lines are crossed and so that the nature of the friendship itself in no way would later on be in a manner that it would be uncomfortable for another party. Right. And so that's what I mean by that statement that I said, which is think ahead when making decisions, especially when it comes to friendships with the opposite sex. And at times you'd find that you develop a friendship. In this case, I'm just going to assume I'm speaking to gents. You develop a friendship with another girl and you know that I don't want anything more with this girl. We're just friends. She's really cool as a friend. I'm not necessarily going to want to pursue anything of a romantic sense with this individual. Set the boundaries at that point, especially if you're single, because you know later on, yes, I'm single now. She's also single and we're friends. She will get a boyfriend or you are going to get a girlfriend. Now, you don't want your friendship that you currently have with this individual to be of an uncomfortable nature to the boyfriend of that friend or your girlfriend when they now see the friendship you have with this individual. And so that's what I mean when I'm saying let us be proactive and think ahead when it comes to these decisions, when it comes to the friendships that we develop with these with the opposite sex, keeping in mind that if we're saying we're friends, you're gonna date, I'm gonna date, you're gonna get married one day, I'm gonna get married one day. And from I think the last episode that I was sharing, if not 2 episodes before, I was like, we don't build friendships saying it's only going to last 3 years, it's only going to last a year. But the average person builds a relationship with the mindset of this is for a lifetime. And so if this friendship with this person of the opposite sex is going to be a lifetime, then that means whoever you're going to marry later on, if you're not already married, is going to be comfortable with this friendship. And so already putting on that lens when you are building that relationship with the person of the opposite sex to say that the way this friendship is, I am as sure as I can be that my partner, my future spouse would be okay with the nature of this friendship, and likewise on the friend's side as well. Should they get into a romantic relationship, get married, that their spouse, their partner would also be okay with the nature of the friendship and not feel threatened, not feel like it's uncomfortable and it's crossing some kind of lines, and not feel like they're going to need to now come and compete or have to put their foot down and say, I don't think this friendship can continue because it's making me uncomfortable, right? So really, having that lens is what I'm really trying to drive here with the point of us thinking ahead when we make decisions when it comes to friends of the opposite sex. Second takeaway, which I've realized is we fool ourselves more often than we are willing to admit. And this one, I also had to, I had to sit with it and actually really recognize that there's some truth to this. What do I mean by this? Guys, we are male and female for a reason. And what do they say about a negative charge and a positive charge? Opposites attract. Likewise, a male tends to be attracted to a female, just like a female tends to be attracted to a male, right? So, in me saying that is to say that we need to exercise the discretion and exercise the wisdom when it comes to how we navigate these friendships. It so easily can lines get blurred. And in the name of, no, but we're friends. Little do we know. And no, let me not say little do we know, because we tend to fool ourselves, as I'm saying. You can see where something is heading, but you hide behind the guise of, no, we're friends. And then you're going to act all surprised when the very thing we saw was going to happen if we continue down this path actually happened. And so we need to exercise the discretion. We need to exercise the wisdom in this area. I have an experience also way before my high school days as well, having a friend. This particular friend, if I'm being honest, we would chat on WhatsApp like late into the night, like 11 p.m. We're chatting almost throughout the day. We're friends. We are friends. We're doing this, right? And at some point, she has a boyfriend. At some point, I was also dating someone, but we were still chatting for like throughout the day. Like, if I'm really being honest and I'm really evaluating, at times, I think I was talking to her more than I was talking to my girlfriend at the time. And now I look at it and I'm like, that was foolish. That was so foolish. And so we really tend to fool ourselves. And I just want us to be aware of that. And the moment we can acknowledge that there sometimes can be a naivety and a sense of fooling ourselves, and we hide and tell ourselves that no, we're just friends, we're platonic, no, nothing will happen. Like, I've seen so many friendships like, we're platonic, nothing's gonna happen, and next thing, jiggy we're dating. And then you're like, man, we were chatting, I don't know, a vibe started developing. And it's like, yes, of course, male and a female, like opposites attract. So of course it would happen. The more you spend time with someone, the more likely it is that you develop feelings for the individual. And so it's just us really being mindful of that. Things like, in this, obviously in the context of this conversation of friends with the opposite sex, things like, are you guys going to watch movies together? What are we doing? Like, me and this girl, we're just going to go watch a movie. Even if we're single, unless we know that we are wanting to go in that direction, what are we doing? You're going to go watch a movie. It's dark. Some theaters don't get packed. So maybe you find it's not even full in that theater. What movie are you even watching? Things like you chatting or you're on phone calls, 11 p.m., going to midnight, 1 a.m. Like, what are we doing? For those who've watched How I Met Your Mother, Ted Mosby's mother would say, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Like, I'd say with the friend of an opposite sex, after 10 p.m., your brain is not functioning, just klima, So stuff like that, like just asking yourself, like, what am I doing, and what could I be opening the door to, and do I want to open the door to that? Like, let's be more intentional. We are intelligent beings. We are intelligent beings for the most part. We are able to reason very well. And so let's use that, and let's not really be fooling ourselves the way we tend to be fooling ourselves. And so I just wanted to put those takeaways to our attention, and then just principles in closing that I've applied with myself, and that I would just present to you to consider if you haven't yet. Firstly is, don't be naive. This ties into my recent points in the takeaway. Don't be naive. There's male and female for a reason. Do not be naive. So I remember on my side what I did. This was now around the time where, just before I even pursued my wife right now, like back then, I was still single at the time. And again, being self-aware, I realized that, okay, women are so attractive, all the things. I'm like, okay, cool. I need to put boundaries, right? So obviously I'm really setting boundaries with friendships. And so one of the boundaries I set for myself was, I will not engage in any conversations online with any female after 9 p.m. Where did this come from? This stemmed from, again, being self-aware, realizing that after 9 p.m., when it goes to your 10 p.m., 11 p.m., hey man, I don't know. I feel like something's in the air. I feel like something changes in, I don't know. I feel like some brain cells switch off for the night, and then certain brain cells that were off switch on. Even conversations, I would notice how certain chats change when the night starts going in, Also, I'm like, just picturing it for a moment, humor me for a moment. You there at 11 p.m. Maybe you're now in bed. You're now in bed and you're just chilling. Maybe you're just there in your boxes and you're chatting to this girl, and you're just chatting, could be just a friend, whatever, whatever. But the setting itself, at least for me, I was like, man, my imagination would start running wild. Oh, okay, I'm in bed. I wonder if she's in bed at this time. Oh, and if she's in bed, I wonder what could she be wearing? And then the chats also can start changing the nature of the chats as well. So, and it becomes flirty and all of that. So, because of all of that, and just knowing myself, knowing the creature I am, I was like, 9 p.m. is the cutoff. And I don't care how great the conversation is going. When 9 p.m. hits, I stop replying. I'll reply the next morning. Right. So I started doing that, so much so that even when I was now pursuing my wife, pursuing her, wanting to get into a romantic relationship, wanting us to date, even with her, we were chatting, the chats were amazing. You know that time when you starting to get to know each other and you're vibing and all of that, like the chats are great, like it was amazing. But 9 p.m. would hit and I would stop. I would stop replying, as tempting as it may be, because I would be enjoying really speaking to her, but I would stop. And she would see that I'm still online, because now I'm chatting to my boys. I'm whatever else I'm doing, but I'm not responding to any female at that time. And I remember she noticed it, because when we started dating, she then asked me, she was like, hey, I noticed something. We would be chatting, and then from 9 p.m. for some reason you'd stop replying. Why is that? And then I shared with her, I'm like, no, it's a rule of mine, a personal rule of mine, and this is why. And she admired it and she respected it, so much so that even in the time when we were dating, we continued with that rule. So even when we were dating, we would speak 9 p.m. I'm saying good night and call it a day. We'll talk tomorrow. And so that was a personal rule of mine, knowing myself, because I don't want to fool myself again, highlighting that first part of saying, let's not be fooling ourselves like we often do. And so that's the first practical principle that I wanted to share with us, is let's not be naive. We know our weaknesses. We know what turns us on. We know what, gets us excited. So especially when it comes to this area of friendship with the opposite sex, let us not be naive. Set the proper boundaries that are necessary. And then the second thing is, your spouse or partner is your litmus test. What do I mean by this? I spoke of it earlier. I had the self-awareness and I asked myself, if I were to introduce this friendship to my girlfriend at the time, or now let's say I develop any friendship, maybe it's a workplace friendship, whatever, of the opposite sex, and I'm like, I come and I introduce this person to my wife, will she be comfortable? Right? If she were to see and analyze the nature of this friendship, would she be comfortable? Would she be okay with it? You know your partner, you know your spouse very well, you know how they think, you know how they reason, and so you're able to decipher to a large extent that this relationship, this friendship that I'm having, is not the one. Like, if I'm being honest, there are some male friendships where I'm like, already from a distance, I'm like, yeah, if we develop this friendship, no. My wife is gonna sit me down and be like, what's going on there? So I can already see it even with male friendships, how much more with female friendships. And so if you're not sure, just try to put yourself in your partner's shoes. You already know your partner. You already know how they think, you know their character. You know what they stand for and what they don't stand for. And so you'll be able to decipher to some extent, to some degree, that, you know what, this is not okay, or okay, this is actually okay. She would be fine with this, or he would be fine with this. And then you know how to proceed with that. And so those were the principles, and that was the chat. that I wanted to have with us in this episode. I hope that it was challenging enough and it was something that was encouraging and you could take something from it that you could potentially apply in your life as you continue to grow as an individual. And so, with that said, please take care, and until next time, know that the man you're becoming is better than the man that you are today.